infamous three finger jack. Welcome back, viewers and subscribers. Now today we're just going to take a short journey on the Southern Coastal Highway project. Now this roadway leads from St. Andrew through St. Thomas and should lead you straight into Port Antonio, Portland. Now this scenic route is not only a vital transportation artery, as you can see by the amount of vehicles going by, but also a gateway to one of the most beautiful areas of Jamaica. This was hidden beauty that many never saw before the highway was cut, but now everything is visible to everybody. I'll also be giving you some drone shots just to show you what the area looks like. Please enjoy. Now on the conclusion of the roadway should stretch to over 110 kilometers, starting in, as I said earlier, Bull Bay, St. Andrew, through St. Thomas onto Portland. Now as you can see, it has now, the roadway has now opened up. A lot of these homes were basically was people didn't even know that persons lived in some of these very heavily forested areas. And it's also what's fabulous about this is the kind of scenery that you see in this area as you go along the highway. Also, what you will notice that there are a number of exits off the highway. I think those exits are created for the future construction of homes. I think if possible along this highway there's also some amount of signage which shows you which is advertising future developments. There's one such exit that's kind of blocked off at the moment. Somebody seems to be constructing a shop right here. And just trying to take advantage. Oh, here's one of those signs. Yes, that's advertising a development. And also I think there's some development going on the left hand over here. As you can see the fence. I think there's an exit, so yes, there's an exit right here where you see the stoplight. I decided to stop at this point because I think there's a very important sign here. This area is normally called Three Finger Jack. And this is a monument here. And it was put up by the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, and it reads, Jack, man, song, Three Finger Jack, north of this road in the hills and valleys behind this marker was the territory of the famous Jack Mansang or Three Finger Jack. It is not certain whether he was born in Jamaica or came from Africa, but it is known that in the years 1780 to 81, he fought often single-handedly a war of terror against the English soldiers and planters who held the slave colony. Strong, brave, skilled with machete and musket, his bold exploits were equaled only by his chivalry. He loved his country and his people. He was said to have never harmed a woman or child. His life became a legend. Books and plays about him were written and performed in London theaters. He was ambushed and killed near here in 1781. So that's some information about the infamous Three Finger Jack. Anyone who frequents St. Thomas would know that, boy, this was one of the worst journeys that you could ever think of doing. Whenever I went to St. Thomas, I can tell you that my back, I would feel pain all over my body because of the terrible road network in the parish over the many years. Now this, for me, is a very much an improved site. As you can see, we're seeing some beautiful vistas on the way. The only negative effect of this, and we must also speak about, so one of those exits that I'm talking about that will lead to a future development, is that a lot of people now are kind of, especially those who had their small businesses and so in other communities along this way, would suffer because they wouldn't have so much traffic flowing through those communities. One day I guess I'll take a trip on the now unbeaten path, if you could say so. But as you can see, there are many persons along this way who would have been doing a lot of construction over the years, long before the highway construction was going on. We just passed the speed limit sign. It's a 50-kilometer speed limit, it says on that sign. I hope that's not for the entire roadway. A sign here says Santa Cruz Way. There's another one of those communities that you wouldn't have been seen over the many years. We're now at, that's Albion Heights on your left hand, and when you look over there, you also see some nicely built homes. Yes, this is really breathtaking. We're now in St. Thomas, coming up on, this is the first, this is kind of historical. Yes, a stoplight being historical. This is the first stoplight in the parish of St. Thomas. Construction isn't completed, but the place is looking great. I think I read somewhere where there's an additional $6.2 billion that has been budgeted to help with because the roadway is supposed to be finished in 2025, that's next year. So another 6.2 billion has been budgeted, and I think there's an additional billion just in case. I think a lot of that will go towards paying JPSCO, paying individuals or landowners basically for their property and so on. And I think some of it towards the further construction. This project is being done by China Harbour. As you know, China Harbour basically dominates the local market when it comes to these kind of large-scale construction. We're coming up onto the Albion community now in St. Thomas. Like I said earlier, folks, I'm not going to take I really don't have the time, unfortunately, today. This has been an extremely busy week, and you see we're looking at communities in the Albion area now. I'll go up to the Yallahs Bridge and then spin around and basically just take a look at what's on the other side, going back towards Bull Bay. Believe you me, this is a huge improvement. I've had to come to St. Thomas on so many occasions, and it's one journey I've never ever looked forward to. So basically, if I'm not forced to come to St. Thomas, I don't come to St. Thomas. But this now, it makes it so much easier, and especially where the road is cut now, it's just so breathtaking. You could just stop on the road and just enjoy just taking that nice scenic view. Not sure what is happening with these motors because there's nothing blocking the bus that's in front of this Mark X. I'm assuming the driver doesn't know where they're going or something. We're just a few meters away now from the Yallahs Bridge. Here's the Yallahs Bridge. The Yallahs River, which is probably more famous for a lot of mining. when it's not raining, you'd see a lot of trucks in the river, in the riverbed, you know, mining for sand and stone. And this area is more normally called Poor Man's Corner, and this is just outside of the main town of Yallahs. I'm going to spin around here. See, a few business places are open today. Jamaica aggregate sign. Do you know that they are basically in mining? You know, I should stop and get some drone footage of the Yallahs Bridge. Back into the direction of St. Andrew. I hope you enjoyed that nice drone footage of the Yallahs Bridge. A look at the river and the town in the distance. If you want to head to Easington, you turn right and it that way. Yeah, there's a lot of water on the roadway. If many are not aware, we have been getting a lot of heavy rainfall in recent weeks. I would have had a tropical storm which would have affected the island earlier this week. We're now getting closer to the community of Grandspen in St. Thomas, and Grandspen would have been one of those communities that would be slightly cut off because everybody used to drive through the middle of the community. I'm assuming that persons in that community now would have had their shops and bars and so set up, would have had to kind of migrate from the area because you need that constant traffic flow in order to sustain your business. That's unfortunately one of the things that comes with development. But hopefully, as a resilient people, they'll figure out a way to get through this difficult period. You just take the left turn up here, just like this vehicle, that they're heading into the Grandspen community. We're in the vicinity of the Mesgar Gardens community. Very nice, you'll see some very nice houses built in this area. There's some really fabulous houses are built here. Very nice upcoming community. I foresee that this may be the Beverly Hills of St. Thomas. So I just want to thank you all for watching this video. This is where our journey ends. Remember to like and subscribe and share the video. Until next week.